this is the last song. And then next Sunday when we end the pledge drive, we'll sing something else.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi. Good morning. My name is Rob Thacker. I'm the music director here at St. John's. Please rise and body your spirit as we sing, actually for the final time, Weave, which we've been singing throughout our pledge drive, and I think it's fit beautifully and wonderfully. And I've come to absolutely love it. I think it's a fantastic hymn. So please rise as we sing Weave.
We Hold That Moment in Our Spirit by Adam Slate. I invite you to read this along with me. When the great mosaic of humanity is treated with respect and dignity, when no person is threatened by hunger or war, when we have extended hospitality to the stranger and tended to the sick, when equity and justice reign everywhere, then we shall be free. We light this flame to hold that moment in our spirit and in our minds. We make it real. Welcome to St. John's Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Alicia Rosselot, and I will be your worship associate this morning. St. John's is a welcoming congregation. You are inherently worthy here. We value your sexual orientation, your race, your culture. your age, your social class, your gender identity. We hope to cultivate a beloved community, both in person and online, so we can flourish with dignity, compassion, and love. You may have noticed our Muslim neighbors down the street are also celebrating Eid, the end of Ramadan. There is joy to be found in unity and love. It is the last service in March, and we've seen all the forces of nature this month, as was predicted just 5 weeks ago. I hope we'll be able to close this month under a beautiful rainbow. May we be together in the extraordinary journey of faith, where we can weather the sunshine as well as the clouds and all the prisms of experiences in between. I'd now like to invite you to silence your cell phones as we begin our time of worship together.
We'll now sing hymn 1012, When I Am Frightened. Please rise and embody your spirit.
I invite you to join me in reciting our congregational affirmation. This is the mission of our faith: to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands. Now we have something very special. I'd like to invite Joetta and Ann to come forward. We are going to dedicate our new rainbow flag today. And I want to start with a little preface. Tomorrow is Transgender Day of Visibility. In this time when trans folks are under attack from the government and it's feeling more and more dangerous to be part of the LGBTQ+ club, It is right that St. John's take this action of putting up a pride flag so that everyone who enters our doors knows you are safe and welcome in our beloved community. We invite you to participate in our dedication today. As you're comfortable, I invite you to come forward and touch the flag or a shoulder of someone who's doing so. Our flag is a bit smaller than the last one we dedicated, so you might have to stretch out a bit. Maybe if you guys step down one so they can reach it without. You okay? Oh my gosh. How'd you get so big? I know. Yep. They're clocked. Are we ready?
Everybody will be shoulder connected.
All right. Okay. Let this banner be a symbol of hope, a blanket of protection for those who need it, and a cape of power for those who must be empowered. Let this flag be a standard of our conviction to embody all these things and to be the change we will upon the world. Let the will we weave to empower and protect be woven into this flag as we weave it into the world. With our blessing, let all love be sacred, all unions safeguarded, and all people free. Blessed be. Gently. Every week, we make time in our service to ground ourselves in what we value. We did that just a moment ago. We also celebrate and honor the joys and concerns in our lives by coming forward to place stones in the sand. If you would like a joy or concern to be read, please leave them on the table, or if you are joining us online, please enter them in chat, and we will read any that we receive at the end. And we close the Stone's time by lighting the candle representing all that is in this room and in our community. Melissa, who wasn't able to be here today because she spent the night in the ER with her partner Ivan, who had an infected cat bite. He's doing all right, but she wanted to share that concern. Nicole online says, congratulations to Arrow Stanforth for receiving a Spirit Award at Anderson High School. And we welcome back Howard and Nina from Arizona. And finally, a shout out to the UU Spirit that among many, many things respects handicap parking spots. I'm going to invite you into a moment of prayer or meditation with these words by Lori Walke. Spirit of life and love, some of us are carrying heavy stuff. And we could all use a moment of peace to count our breath, to quiet the noise, to let our spirits be still. Perhaps as we sit, we will count our blessings, name them one by one. When all we have left in us is a moment of silence, help us trust in that moment that it is enough. Blessed be. Amen.
I swear it's every time. Every time I forget. I'll get it eventually. My message for all ages today is not mine, and I have ripped it unceremoniously from YouTube. It's a pretty infamous book because it's the one that those who don't see eye to eye with us have chosen to put on blast for the messages that are contained within, which is why I chose it for today, the day that we dedicated our rainbow flag. It's about penguins. You might know it.
And tango makes 3. In the penguin house in the zoo, there are penguin families. Every year, at the very same time, the girl penguins start noticing the boy penguins, and the boy penguins start noticing the girls. When the right girl and the right boy find each other, they become a couple. 2 penguins in the penguin house were a little bit different. One was named Roy, and the other was named Silo. Roy and Silo were both boys, but they did everything together. They bowed to each other and walked together. They sang to each other and swam together. Wherever Roy went, Silo went too. They didn't spend much time with the girl penguins, and the girl penguins didn't spend much time with them. Instead, Roy and Silo wound their necks around each other. Their keeper, Mr. Gracen, noticed the 2 penguins and thought to himself, They must be in love. Roy and Silo watched how the other penguins made a home, so they built a nest of stones for themselves. Every night, Roy and Silo slept there together, just like the other penguin couples. And every morning, Roy and Silo woke up together. But one day, Roy and Silo saw that the other couples could do something they could not. The mama penguin would lay an egg. She and the papa penguin would take turns keeping the egg warm until finally it would hatch. And then there would be a baby penguin. Roy and Silo had no eggs to sit on to keep warm. They had no baby chick to feed and cuddle and love. Their nest was nice, but it was a little empty. One day, Roy found something that looked like what the other penguins were hatching, and he brought it to their nest. It was only a rock, but Silo carefully sat on it, and sat. Then Mr. Gracen got an idea. He found an egg that needed to be cared for, and he brought it to Roy and Silo's nest. Roy and Silo knew just what to do. They moved the egg to the center of their nest. Every day they turned it, so each side stayed warm. Some days, Roy sat while Silo went for food. Other days, it was Silo's turn to take care of their egg. Until one day, they heard a sound coming from inside their egg. Peep, 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 it said. Roy and Silo called back. Squawk, squawk. Peep, peep, answered the egg. Suddenly, a tiny hole appeared in the egg's shell. And then, crack! Out came their very own baby. She had fuzzy white feathers and a funny black beak. Now Roy and Silo were fathers. We'll call her Tango, Mr. Gracen decided, because it takes two to make a tango. Roy and Silo taught Tango how to sing for them when she was hungry. They fed her food from their beaks. They snuggled her in their nest at night. Tango was the very first penguin in the zoo to have two daddies. Soon, Tango grew strong enough to leave the nest. Roy and Silo took her for a swim, just like all the other penguin families. And all the children who came to the zoo could see Tango and her two fathers playing in the penguin house with the other penguins. Hooray, Roy! Hooray, Silo! Welcome, Tango! They cheered. At night, the three penguins returned to their nest. There, they snuggled together and, like all the other penguins in the penguin house, and all the other animals in the zoo, and all the families in the big city around them, they went to sleep.
I want to invite Erna up for our pledge moment.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I'm Erna Olafson, for those of you who don't know me, and I've been a member of St. John's since 2014, and I've been active in the meditation group and the leadership team, choir, and especially the Safe Congregation Committee. I'm not talking too loudly, am I? It sounds very loud here. Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay. How did I get here? I grew up in Ithaca, New York, but I went in my 20s to California and stayed a long time. So after about 30 years there, where I did graduate work and I was teaching and I raised my family, I moved to Cincinnati in 1994 for a really good job. It was wonderful at Cincinnati Children's Hospital in a faculty position at the medical school, and I loved the work so much because I was working on childhood trauma and maltreatment. I was a psychologist, and I finally completely retired from my last grant at the end of 2023. During my just 30 years here, I initially went to Episcopal and Presbyterian churches and then kind of drifted away. And then in 2013, my older daughter, who at that time was mother of a toddler, was diagnosed with cancer. And it took an endless 2 weeks before we learned that the cancer was stage 1, grade 1, and she would live. And her toddler would have a mother as he grew up. And I remember saying over and over to myself during those 2 weeks, I need a church. I turned to St. John's because I remembered that when there was trouble at a prior church, Mount Auburn Presbyterian, and 100 of us suddenly became churchless, it was St. John's that reached out to us with kindness and courage. The event was covered in the local papers, so you may know something about this. Our wonderful minister, Steve Van Kijken, was defrocked in 2003 by the local presbytery. Some of you remember that story. It was quite notorious. I even had my picture in the paper when we all broke away. And Steve had to leave Mount Auburn, and it was because he'd been performing gay marriages for gay people, which at that time the National Presbyterian Church did not allow. Some of them do now. The church has since split, but at least half of them are now, it's now legal there. And at the night he was defrocked, about 100 of us left Mount Auburn, and we founded the gathering, and as you know, it still exists in Northern Hills. And again, it was the Presbyterians who also reached out to the gathering and gave them a home eventually after we were at various places. Meanwhile, right as we were leaving then in 2003, a gay couple who were friends of mine were scheduled very soon after the defrocking to be married by Steve at Mount Auburn. And it was St. John's who reached out to us and opened their doors, and the wedding took place right here. I almost have tears in my eyes remembering how much that meant to us, because it was a very painful, painful time. The ceremony took place right here on the date planned, and most of us from the homeless gathering at that time came here. Acts of kindness like that are not forgotten. St. John's does so many acts like that for so many people and institutions. And it wasn't just individuals. It was a whole spiritual, loving community that drew me here. And I've been supported by this community and have given back ever since I joined. Every religion talks about love and loving kindness. And St. John's, people just do it. People just act out their love, and it's just a community of loving and giving. As a recipient of that loving kindness, long ago, I can attest to that. So let's weave together our future, to use the theme of the song, by pledging generously today. And now I have something and thank you, Charles, for inviting me to tell this story, which moves me greatly because it helped me think through why I'm here with all of you. Here's what to remember when you're pledging. The number one, you can go to the website. That's what I did. It's the simplest. All the information you need, the forms are there in one place. It's easy to get in. The QR code, whatever that is, I got in. April 6th is next week. That's the time to pledge. The pledge team will be right outside afterwards. Are there any pledge team people here who can stand up and wave so people know how to find them? There you are. Okay, good, thanks. 3 people stood up, okay. And they'll take your pledge. Charles, back there, all 3 of them will take your pledge today. So remember, it's April 6th, it's next week, but the simplest thing to do is today. And thank you for listening to my story.
Thank you, Erna. I share these offertory words by John Saxon. This religious community exists by its mission as a fire exists by burning. But a fire cannot burn without fuel. And it is the time, the energy, the imagination, the vision, the creativity, the compassion, the love, the financial support of its members and friends that fuels our mission to nurture and sustain a welcoming and inclusive and diverse liberal religious community. Your support, the free and generous support of each and every member and friend of this community, is what fuels us. And without your support, the flame of justice, community, and love cannot burn so brightly and be a beacon in a world threatened by division and fear. Your offering will be gratefully received.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Choose to bless the world. Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse the world. The mind's power, the strength of the hands, the reaches of the heart, the gift of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting. Any of these can serve to feed the hungry and bind up wounds. Welcome the stranger, praise what is sacred, do the work of justice, or offer love. Any of these can draw down the prison door, hoard the bread, abandon the poor, obscure what is holy, comply with injustice, or withhold love. You must answer this question: what will you do with your gifts? Choose to bless the world. The choice to bless the world is more than an act of will, a moving forward into the world with the intention to do good. It is an act of recognition, a confession of surprise, a grateful acknowledgement that in the midst of a broken world, unspeakable beauty, grace, and mystery abide. There is an embrace of kindness that encompasses all life, even yours. And while there is injustice, anesthesia, or evil, thank you, there moves a holy disturbance, a benevolent rage, a revolutionary love, protesting, urging, insisting that which is sacred will not be defiled. Those who bless the world live their life as a gesture of thanks for this beauty and this rage. The choice to bless the world can take you into solitude to search for the sources of power and grace, native wisdom, healing, and liberation. More, the choice will draw you into community, the endeavor shared, the heritage passed on, the compassion of struggle, the importance of keeping faith, the life of ritual and praise, the comfort of human friendship, the company of earth, the chorus of life welcoming you. None of us alone can save the world. Together, that is another possibility, waiting.
Would you harbor me? Would I harbor you? Would you harbor an exile or a refugee? Would you harbor an immigrant, a student, a person who is genderqueer? When I was studying history in college, learning about the atrocities and the joys of the past, I never, ever thought we would be here. I never expected we would see students in the United States kidnapped off the streets by armed, masked, unnamed officers. I never expected we would see people whisked away in violation of court orders and hidden in the system so they couldn't be found. I never expected that we would sell people, both gang members and non-criminal immigrants, into torture and slavery in a prison in another country. I never expected the executive branch of the United States would extort law firms, journalists, and businesses. That the executive would break the law they had sworn to uphold so often we couldn't keep up. I never expected that the social media pages of the United States White House would post threats to kill people, or would claim that the leader of the executive branch is king. I never expected they would share video footage of people in chains for citizens to enjoy as soothing sounds. I never expected to live or minister in such a time as this. And while I've preached about it here and there, I never truly expected we would have to consider with such seriousness who we might harbor, how we might respond in situations like this in such a deep way. Finally, I understand why "may you live in interesting times" could be considered a curse. My friends, I don't use the word evil very often, but we are facing evil as a nation. So what do we do? How do we respond? 2 weeks ago, in a sermon Melissa shared on my behalf while I was sick, I introduced the idea of moral imagination, what some have described as creative engagement to find solutions that are both effective and aligned with moral values. Moral imagination is at the heart of many successful nonviolent resistant movements. And I specify nonviolent resistance here because, as historian Heather Cox Richardson tells us, movements, especially in the United States, quickly lose the support of the public if they become violent. But I also want to focus on nonviolent resistance because it requires more moral imagination than the alternatives. When we're faced with something big and horrible as we are today, it doesn't take as much creativity to give in and run away. And it doesn't take as much creativity to lash out violently, although both of these are understandable responses. But they aren't always as effective, and they aren't always as in line with our moral values. In other words, they don't draw from our moral imagination. So what sort of responses do emerge from moral imagination? I'd like to share 3 examples this morning, starting with the story of the Estonian Revolution. Those of you in the choir will especially like this one. There's still light outside, even if we lose power. Toward the end of the Cold War, over 100,000 Estonians gathered at a song festival. They began singing in protest to Soviet rule in their country, singing about their love of the land and their desire for freedom. It was a song that had been banned from the festival. At one point, the Soviets ordered a military band to play and drown out the singers, but the band was no match for 100,000 voices. The people sang the song over and over and over again, in the face of the authorities, until eventually they had to allow it, pretending, of course, that they had been in support of it all along. Now, things didn't change overnight, but what had become known as the singing revolution did lead to change. More songs were written, more people sang them, and those acts of resistance gave strength for other acts. Some Estonians began flying 3 separate banners, blue, black, and white, side by side, creating an image of the Estonian flag in a time when it was illegal to own an Estonian flag. Others protested a mining project, successfully halting it. In 1989, Estonians joined with Latvians and Lithuanians to form a 370-mile-long human chain of people singing in protest. And when Gorbachev was placed under house arrest and troops entered Estonia in tanks, unarmed Estonians faced them down singing. If you ever doubted the power of music. Now, of course, that's a cleaned up version for history. In reality, there were multiple movements in Estonia, and people often identified more strongly with one than with others. And there were debates about what actions would be most effective, and the whole thing was as messy as movements are. But what held true through it all was that the Estonians did not give in to easy answers. They engaged with the challenging work of moral imagination. The second story I want to share with you this morning is from here in the U.S. In 1993, a Jewish family in Billings, Montana was celebrating Hanukkah. They placed a yellow menorah in the window of their 5-year-old son Isaac's bedroom. That evening, while the children were playing downstairs, the parents had heard a crash coming from Isaac's upstairs bedroom. When they went to investigate, they found the window had been broken. Somebody had thrown a concrete block through it. A neo-Nazi hate group had been terrorizing minority groups in Billings for months. The Jewish community and others had been receiving racist phone messages and letters. The synagogue had received a bomb threat, and its cemetery had been vandalized. After the attack on the family's home, police recommended they not put any more menorahs in their window. They put bars on those same windows, maybe get a guard dog. But that doesn't require much moral imagination. Instead, the community stepped up to resist more creatively, and of course, it started with the kids. At a local church, some children began drawing menorahs, taking them home, putting them in their windows. Adults soon followed suit. Churches and local businesses stocked pictures of menorahs for families to take home and display. And then the local newspaper, the Billings Gazette, got in on it. The Gazette published a full-page color menorah and encouraged all of its 50,000 subscribers to hang it in their windows. Some were attacked, but the community did not back down. And they didn't respond with violence. On the last night of Hanukkah, little Isaac's family drove around Billings and saw the menorahs everywhere. Isaac said, "I didn't know so many people were Jewish." And his mother responded, "They're not all Jewish, but they're our friends." The attacks didn't end overnight. Not pretending it'll be easy, but they did end. And in Billings, many non-Jewish families still display menorahs at Hanukkah in solidarity with their Jewish neighbors. When I read this story, I was reminded of a more local incident. Less than 2 months after my family moved to Cincinnati in 2023, we learned that leaders in our local school district in Anderson had covered up and later painted over a student mural celebrating diversity as a part of a rebranding. Remember this? Yeah. Many students and parents were upset by this, and there were reports of incidents that led some to worry about violence, including an altercation at a board meeting. But what struck Virginia and me was the creative resistance put up by many Anderson area residents and staff at the school. Before the mural was destroyed, somebody got pictures. They released the high-resolution image to the public, and residents turned it into yard signs, t-shirts, and more. Like the menorah in Billings, suddenly the mural could be seen all around Anderson and the surrounding communities, including right there in our yard here at St. John's, in case you were wondering what that was. By engaging their moral imaginations, people found a way to resist the silencing of student voices, painting the entire township with their message of diversity and inclusion, even as the original mural was painted over at the school. I'm inspired when I hear such stories. They highlight the power of nonviolent response, of creative response. But I'll admit that I struggle at times to trust that our collective moral imagination can produce responses adequate to the task of overcoming evil, such as that which is growing in our nation now. I worry that sometimes that a commitment to nonviolence, what some can call pacifism, can slide too easily into non-action and passivity. Growing up in Christian churches, I heard the classic teachings of Jesus. If anyone strikes you on your right cheek, turn the other also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, give them your coat as well. And if anyone forces you to go a mile, go the second mile. Give to the one who asks of you, and do not refuse anyone who wants to borrow from you. Remember those, some of you? Yeah. So give your shirt, turn your cheek. We're just to give in to injustice and oppression. How could that be effective or aligned with our values? That doesn't sound like an expression of moral imagination. Recently, however, I was invited to return to this ancient teaching in light of the work of Walter Wink and some biblical scholars. In his writing about this, Walter Wink explains that these sayings of Jesus were far more an expression of creative resistance than we give them credit for. For example, in ancient Roman society, hitting a person on the right cheek would have meant hitting them backhanded, since the left hand would not be used for such things. A backhanded slap was the slap of a person with power to a person without power. So turning the other cheek was actually a creative response. It wasn't about giving in. It wasn't about slapping them back. Turning the other cheek was saying, I'm not going to hit you, but if you're going to do it again, you have to do it front-handed as an equal. Similarly, giving up all one's garments after a person has taken some. Well, in Jesus' culture at the time, nakedness was scandalous. However, not for the person, but for the people who saw it. So you see where I'm going. Giving the person all your clothes, that was a creative, nonviolent response, reclaiming your dignity while making it very clear that the true shame of the exploitation lies with the one doing the exploiting. Dennis Lynn shares a story of a group of poor black women who engaged with a similar strategy in South Africa. When white Afrikaner soldiers arrived with bulldozers to raze their village, the women had few options. Their men were away at work. The women could try to take up arms and resist the soldiers, but they would lose. They could flee, but they didn't do either. Instead, they stood in front of the bulldozers and stripped. The religious Dutch Reformed soldiers were so scandalized they ran. And the women are still at that village. It's probably a more creative response than I'm prepared to do today. But imagine stripping down naked in front of bulldozers being both effective and aligned with their values. I'm hoping we won't get there. But I do know that we're going to need moral imagination to resist the evil that is growing here. We're going to have to think beyond the simple, easy responses of passivity or violence. We're going to have to stay grounded in our morals while finding effective, creative solutions. And this might take a while. You may not be facing your moment today or tomorrow, but it's going to come. Will you be prepared? How can we exercise our creative resistance now so we'll be ready then? A couple of weeks ago, I mentioned the importance of engaging with creativity. Research shows that practicing creative responses in one area of life can increase our capacity for creative responses in other areas. So I encourage you this week to think of something that you do most days, the route you take to work, the way you make your coffee, anything that's a well-worn routine, and switch it up. Practice thinking of new approaches to old familiar situations. Another factor that researchers have found influences our capacity for creativity is rest. A person who is not getting enough sleep is far more likely to fall back on easy responses than to think outside the box about what could be both effective and aligned with your moral values. So while it might seem counterintuitive, getting a good night's sleep is part of resistance. Turn off the news. Go to bed. The world still needs you in the morning. And finally, creativity, especially the kind required for moral imagination in response to violence and oppression, is best cultivated in communities of trust, communities where it's okay to make mistakes, communities where we can be honest with one another. Fear and isolation are creativity killers. So continue to cultivate trust here at St. John's and in your other social communities. It matters. My beloved spiritual companions, evil is growing, but so's our capacity for responding to it. We are called in this time to find creative solutions that are both effective and aligned with our values. As Unitarian Universalists, we know how to think outside the box, how to maintain our sense of right and wrong, even while trying new ways of being in the world. And we know how to draw inspiration and strength from stories, religious and secular. May we continue drawing from this deep well of stories as we engage our moral imagination for the tasks ahead. Blessed be, dear ones.
Amen. I don't say that often. Okay, so greet your neighbor. We're moving that till after service just for the sake of time, but we would like you to greet your neighbor for sure. I do have some announcements, and I'd also like to invite Jean and John and Cheryl to come over to the mic for their announcements as well as I go through mine. We are a Sanctuary Congregation Coalition. And we are collating with the Clifton United Methodist Church. Our sanctuary family has a need to get their kids to soccer games and practices. So see Amy if you can help the family out. There is a big discussion following the service today, and the church has provided lunch for those of you who are planning on staying this afternoon. So it's going to start here at 12:45, and we do have lunch for those people who are staying. Everyone's invited to stay and chat. We've got a forum coming up. And Erna already talked a lot about weaving our future. Next week, the men's group will be meeting, and there will be a potluck. Also, the Covenant team is hosting an information table after service, and I'm going to turn it over before I make my last announcement. Go ahead, Jean.
Okay, I'm Jean Nightingale, and I would like to announce that we are, St. John's is co-sponsoring Women's City Club National Speaker Forum this year. And this is on April 11th at 7 o'clock in Memorial Hall and Over the Rhine. And as co-sponsors, we agreed to sell tickets to our members, and I'll let you know what those are. But to tell you about the speaker, Kathy O'Neill is a mathematician and a data scientist. She's author of the New York Times bestseller, Weapons of Math Destruction: How Big Data Increases Inequality and Threatens Our Democracy. So these tickets, I've got the tickets here, and we're selling them at a discount, $35 for the attendance, but we also have two tickets that are allows you to go and speak with a speaker afterwards. So that's $35 for the ordinary tickets, and let's see, gosh, I can't remember. I think it's $50 for the ones where you can go and speak with, join her after the talk. So come to me, I've got the tickets, and if you wanted, just to, I think that this may conflict with a dinner that night, a potluck dinner, so think about that too, but love to have you if you're interested in this. Just wanted to say, just put on my green hat for a minute, next Sunday's forum will be a Green Sanctuary Forum. And we need your ideas for a new rollout of a trash program that saves money and saves waste. So we need you to come. And we will also have a meeting after the service for the Green Sanctuary so we can regroup. Thank you.
So I think many of you probably are aware that when Unitarian Universalists protest, demonstrate, rally, whatever, that they're known as the yellow shirt people. This is one of the yellow shirts they're talking about, which is the Side by Love shirt. If you're going to the rally on April 5th, how many of you are thinking about going to Washington Square? Oh, man, excellent. Okay, great. As you know, this is a national rally, so we're hoping millions of people will show up. Anyway, Mary and I do have three Mary, you want to stand up? We do have three Side with Love shirts. They're all extra large. We have three. If you'd like one, we have them here. They're payable $24 to St. John's. So that's it. Thank you.
I'm going to make this really quick. Come to the auction, do things for the auction. Come talk to me if you have questions about the auction. I'll have the hat. You can find me. Okay.
Sorry for the noise. I can't get up on the podium there. There we go. So March is National Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month, and I like to take this as an opportunity to thank you for letting me participate fully in the church. Now, I can't quite get up on the dais yet. I understand that's being considered, and I appreciate that. But for those who help me with choir, you've seen people get a stool for me. They do chairs during choir rehearsal. You let me go down the stairs slowly. I thank you for letting me be a full member and participate fully. I'd also like to invite you to join me on the MS Walk, which is April 26th down at Sawyer Point. We have actually a pretty good-sized team. We had 30 people last year, and quite a few people from church joined us, which was very exciting to have that part of my family represented. So you're welcome to join us on the 24th as well, or if you don't have time to walk and you're willing to donate, that would be great, especially since this year federal funding has been cut. We're really excited that the cure was within 8 to 10 years because of what's in testing now, which might allow me to play my cello for you at some point. But with federal funding, I think we've hit a bump in the road. So any little bit you're willing to contribute is very helpful, and thank you. And I'll have some cards out in the lobby afterwards if you want to have the URLs. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to sing our final closing hymn for today, Blue Boat Home, 1064. Please rise, embody your spirit.
We receive fragments of holiness, glimpses of eternity, brief moments of insight. Let us gather them up for the precious gifts they are, and renewed by their grace, move boldly into the unknown. Go in peace, go in love.